So we have Guy. So Megan, just Vic, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's give Vic a couple of seconds. And Ray and Randy, good to see you guys.
How you doing? Good to see you, everyone.
Ray, we have tough questions for you, so be prepared.
You always do.
It
Oh,
has nothing to do with the budget, Ray, but they have tough.
like when are the Orioles going to get a good starting pitcher? You know, those kind of questions. Vic, you there, buddy? All right. So if I could, I'd like to call the May 12th regular session of the Township of Long Hill meeting to order at 7:35. Would everybody please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance?
Before we do that, can I make the statement of presiding officer?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held in the order is listed on the meeting agenda. When the mayor opens up public comment portion, if you're using a computer and would like to add a public comment, please raise your hand. To raise your hand, click the participants button on the bar located at the bottom of your screen. Once the bar pops up, scroll to the right and there will be an option to raise hand. If you're dialing in and would like to make a public comment, press *9 when the mayor opens up public comment.
Thank you, Megan. Would everybody please rise? Join me in pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United
United
States
States
of
of
America
America,
and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So thank you. Megan, would you please take roll?
Committeeman Dorsey,
Here.
Committeeman Lavender,
Present.
Committeeman Verleza,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Ray. You're on mute. Still on mute.
Double muted. I was double muted there. Present.
And Mayor Pasurcia.
Present. Okay, so let's jump right into it. For those watching at home, we are up to item number 4 on the agenda, ordinance 470-21. It is an ordinance concerning street openings and amending chapter 20 of the Township Code entitled Streets and Sidewalks as previously amended by ordinance 470-21. Jack, would you want to give a brief summary of what this is?
Yeah, we previously amended the street opening ordinance, and at the request of the township engineer, we're expanding it to allow him to require infrared restoration. I'm not sure the technical terminology of the road, even for roads older than 5 years, if they're in good shape. Paul thinks the current ordinance gives them that power, but Nancy and I think we should probably clarify the ordinance to make it clear that he does in fact have that power. So that's all this does, is expands the previously amended ordinance slightly to give them that additional power.
Thank you, Jack. So any questions or comments from the Township Committee?
Do we have any kind of objective criteria that the judgment's made?
No, I think it's just the professional judgment of Paul. I don't think anyone has really questioned him, even to date, the few that he's had to do. You know, you're right. I mean, it's somewhat vague, but
Okay. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it if there's a
yeah,
problem. Yep.
you know,
Okay.
I think if he applies it rationally, it will work out.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. Megan, did we receive any written comments in regards to ordinance 470-21?
We did not, Mayor.
Thank you, Megan. So at this point, well, that was opening it up to the public. So I'd like to open up the meeting to the public for questions or comments regarding this ordinance only. There will be time at the end of the public meeting for comments on any topic. Megan, I don't see anybody.
I don't see any hands, Mayor.
Okay, so can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 470-21?
So moved.
Second.
Just for clarification, that was 470-21, correct?
That is correct.
And the motion was made by Committeeman Lavender and seconded by Deputy Mayor Ray.
Yep.
Yep.
Committeeman Dorsey? You're on mute.
He looks frozen.
Oh, he's gone. Committeeman Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray,
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia.
Yes. Jack, if Matt doesn't get on immediately, is there any issue with just making it a 4? You're on
Yeah.
mute, Jack. Ah, here he is. Matt, can you hear us?
You're on mute.
No, I'm having internet issues here, so just keep going.
All right, well, I mean, we were just taking a vote. I mean, this is on 470-21.
The pothole, not the road opening, right?
Yep,
Yeah, that's why I left off when you went to public comment. That's when I got booted.
right. So the vote, Megan, I guess, I don't know how to proceed here, but the vote's to you, Matt. It's
There
already,
were- Yeah, there were no public comments. Committeeman Dorsey is voting yes for the road
Thank
opening.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay. So next on the agenda, this is also second reading. So for adoption, ordinance 473-21. It is calendar year 2021 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank under statutory law NJSA 40A 4-45.14. Every year, this is something that brings a little confusion to the process. We did receive a question from my dear friend, resident Neil Lorber, regarding this. If I could, Ray, could you explain what this is and what it does not do?
Sure. And not the first question and won't be the last. The title that is a boilerplate title of this ordinance comes from the state of there being a bank is a little bit misleading. But essentially what this does is it gives you the most flexibility in the budget for the future. So what you're doing is establishing that you are taking whatever excess there is in your appropriations up to 3.5% and allowing it to be used in future years. And what that does is it allows you more flexibility in the future that say you didn't have a big increase in your budget this year, but something like a garbage contract in the future year causes a big increase in appropriations and that you wouldn't be able to meet in the regular cap increase. It allows you to use the bank from the prior year. So it allows you the ability to use a bank from a prior year in a future year in which there's a greater increase in appropriations for some unforeseen circumstances. So really, a really good planning tool of the 70 or so towns that my company works on the budget for. I would say about 99% of them do this ordinance in order to give yourself the greatest flexibility for future budgets.
Can I ask you a question, Ray? How long has this statute been around? Like, how long has the cap bank existed?
In various forms, I believe it's existed since either the late 80s or early 90s. Actually, it might even be even earlier than that. And what happened was, and the original cap was put in place, and what was happening was towns were going up to the full amount of what the cap was. So I think it was actually 5% at the time, and it's 2.5% now. And because they would know, okay, our garbage contract is going to come up in 2 years, and if we don't increase taxes up to 5% this year, we're never going to be able to meet our budget next year. And so what happened is there was a cap, but every single year towns were going up to the maximum amount of cap, and it was kind of doing the opposite intention, which was to try and curve property taxes. Towns were actually increasing more because they were just going up to the maximum they could every single year, because they knew they were losing an advantage in a future year. So what the bank does is it allows you to, if you're not going up to the maximum amount, any difference between the maximum amount and what the percentage that you're going up is saved for a future date.
Thank you, Ray. And now I'll bring us up to date a little bit. So after the 2% cap was put in place back in 2010, that cap, and your Ray Serenelli Sr. had answered this question a couple of years ago for us. So, I think I know the answer already, so I won't put you on the spot. Since that cap was put in place in 2010, so 12 budgets ago, Long Hill Township on the municipal side has never used a penny from the cap bank. So I just want residents to rest easy. This is not being passed in order to circumvent that 2% cap. And in fact, for the 12 years since that 2% cap was put in place, Long Hill Township on the municipal side has never used any money from the cap bank. So that being said, I'd like to open up to the public on ordinance 473. This is the ordinance to exceed the municipal budget. Megan, did we receive any written comments regarding 2.1?
Yes, we did, Mayor. It's from Neil Lorber, and I'll just read it verbatim from what he said. As I indicated earlier to you and Deputy Mayor Ray, I do support this year's exceedance of the limit resolution due in large measure to the extraordinary unfortunate circumstances that pertain to the township. My wife, daughter, and I should note, are of similar persuasion. Unfortunately, I'm a senior who still doesn't have technical electronic capacity for audio-visual remote participation in the township committee meetings, etc. So I'm e-writing this to you now. It is my understanding that such an email communication as this can effectively constitute input of a kind into such meetings. I am, of course, referring in specific to the May 12th second reading of the exceedance resolution.
Thank you, Megan. And for Mr. Lorber and his wife and his daughter, I want to reiterate, I think his question is an excellent one. I think his question is one that most taxpayers in town are concerned about. And I want to assuage everybody's concerns. This will not affect the spending of the municipal budget. It will still be below the 2% cap, and there is no intention, as has not been the intention for the past 12 years, to use any money from the cap bank. That said, I'd like to open up the meeting to the public for questions or comments on ordinance 47-23, the ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation. So Megan, let us know, please, if anybody raises their hand.
I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Megan. So I'll close it, the public hearing. Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 473-21?
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey,
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray,
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia.
Yes. So now we are at Capital Ordinance 474-21. This is first reading. This is introduction. Providing for various improvements in and by the Township of Long Hill in the County of Morris, New Jersey, and appropriating $2,380,700, therefore from various funds of the township. So I guess questions, comments from the Township Committee.
But for the record, second reading and public hearing will be on May 26th.
Thank you. So, Scott, et cetera, any comments or questions? We have Randy, the Township CFO here. And of course, the Township Auditor, Ray Serenelli. So feel free to ask questions, make comments, et cetera. All right, if there are none, and as Jack pointed out, the second reading, when we will have a public hearing on this ordinance, will be May 26th, 2 weeks from tonight. And I'll look for a motion on first reading to approve ordinance 474-21.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey,
Yes. Thank you.
Committeeman Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray,
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia.
Yes. So item number 5 on the agenda is a resolution. Now, this is resolution 21-122 and 21-123, both pertain to the budget. I have to preface this part of the meeting. We cannot vote on the approval of the budget tonight as the state, which is unfortunately common practice, is behind on budget reviews. We cannot pass it until that review and approval is sent to us. We are still going to have the public portion tonight. So comments, questions, et cetera, related to the budget. I just want to let everyone know that we will not pass the budget on second reading tonight. And again, it is not something to do specific to Long Hill. We are ready to discuss and if approved tonight. But we cannot do that, again, because of the state has not reviewed the budget yet. So can I have so I won't open this, Megan, I won't open this to the public?
So
No,
there's two resolutions at hand. There's 21-122 that you guys will be voting on tonight because that's to read the 2021 budget by title only at the public hearing. So you guys will vote on that. And then we
Understood.
will take public comment for the adoption of the 2021 budget, the resolution 21-123.
Thank you, Megan. That's clear. So can I have a motion to approve resolution 21-122?
So moved.
A second.
Committeeman Dorsey,
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray,
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia.
Yes. 21-123, as Megan just explained, this is the adoption of the 2021 budget, which we will not vote on tonight, but we will have the public hearing. So I guess questions or comments from the Township Committee? Hearing none, I'm going to open up the meeting for resolution 21-123. This is the adoption of the 2021 budget, which, as we just explained, will not be voted on tonight. Megan, did we receive any written comments?
We did not, Mayor.
Thank you, Megan. So now I will open up the meeting to the public. Again, we will not be taking a vote on Resolution 21-123. It will be carried to May 26th, 2 weeks from this evening. So comments or questions regarding the budget, the adoption of the budget, which will not take place tonight.
We do have Dennis Sandow. I'm going to allow you to talk. If you could state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Dennis Sandow, and I live in Millington, for the record. I am looking at the budget on page 274 of the file that was posted on the website, but I think it is also called sheet 40 Charlie. And I have a question about column 4.
Fire away, Dennis.
I don't understand column 4.
Dennis, you broke up.
I do not understand column 4 of sheet 40 Charlie.
Okay, Randy, if I could, I'm going to turn that question to you.
So is the question about what the estimated completion time is?
The estimated completion times shown on this form are all 2021 and 2022, but the remaining columns on this page show funding amounts through 2026. And why are we funding through 2026 if all the projects are going to be completed in the next 2 years?
So what this page is a and if you look at the top, it's the 6-year capital plan, and it's really just a capital plan. It's nothing that's set in stone. And so what you're seeing of estimated completion time is for current year projects that are undertaken in this plan, but also funding for future projects as well. So the form is prescribed by the state of New Jersey, and I could see your point to why are we funding future projects, but they're what I'll call recurring projects. So the estimated completion time is what is for the current portions of the projects.
And I could find that by reading the instructions for this page somewhere.
There's really not instructions for this page necessarily that I would be able to direct you to, unfortunately.
So the township committee is going to adopt this at a later meeting, including dates and estimated funding amounts that are of uncertain heritage.
I don't know that I would say uncertain, but I would say this is just a plan, and the projects that are included on this plan can be done or not be done, or there could be additional projects that are not included in this plan by amending this plan. So while I don't 100% agree with the state's formatting of this page, it's in the prescribed format of being a plan for the future projects of the town and what they're looking to accomplish over the next 6 years.
I am not quarreling with the columns for future years. I'm quarreling with the column that says estimated completion time. And we scientists don't like to adopt any theory unless it's reproducible. And I can't reproduce that column because you tell me there are no instructions for that column. Is that correct?
Dennis, this is Randy Barr. That is correct. This is these budget documents are taught through classes that come with the certification of municipal finance officer and the certification of registered municipal accountant, which Mr. Serenelli is. This is, as Mr. Serenelli said, The column 4 is an estimated completion time for the 2021 projects. Again, I emphasize estimate. These are all also estimated figures in the future, which plans can change and be adjusted as we go along.
Well, you say that it's understood by the people who have to certify it and sign their name to it. But as I read the front page, it looks like the mayor and the clerk also have to sign their names to it. And so next month I'll ask them to explain it to me.
All right, Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it. So any questions or comments from any other member of the public on Resolution 21-123?
Mayor, it looks like we have a CA. I'm going to promote you. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please.
Charles Arenowitz, Millington, New Jersey. Based upon the governor's announcement this week that we're going to get release of funds to counties and municipalities because of our unemployment rates exceeded expectations, that we're going to get immediate cash delivered to the county and to the towns of New Jersey. I was wondering what impact and the funds that we are to receive will have on this budget.
So, Chuck, I actually can answer that question. I was on a call the other night with, I guess, a lot of government officials from throughout the state and Mr. Gene Sperling, who's an economic advisor to Joe Biden. I can tell you that that is not true. We will not receive an immediate infusion of cash. In fact, the final numbers that will be received by the counties and by municipalities such as Long Hill Township has not yet been finalized. So we don't know that number. And we were told by Mr. Sperling that the numbers that we first received about a month ago will in fact change. So I don't know if it's going up, down, or staying the same.
Well, whenever they determine those monies, what impact will it have on the numbers that you're presenting in this resolution?
Well, Jack, I don't know who should answer that question. Keep in mind, there are going to be parameters on what this money can be used for, such as the retrofitting of certain offices at Town Hall. It can be used for the filtration system at Town Hall. So it certainly, and it's over a 2-year period, right? You get half 1 year and half next. I don't know when we're getting that money. So I can't answer a hypothetical question when I don't know the answer. And if somebody else knows an answer, please let me know.
Well, let me ask you this. I read in yesterday's Star Ledger, or maybe it was today's, they identified metropolitan cities and how much money they were to receive. Unfortunately, Long Hill's not a metropolitan city.
Sure.
Are those incorrect?
Well, what is the question?
The question is, they released, and while in the newspaper, Star Ledger released what metropolitan cities in New Jersey were to receive. For example, Patterson was getting 64 million. Are those numbers incorrect based on your conference call?
I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that everybody on that call, and Patterson, I'm sure, was one of them, were told that the numbers are not final. And to put it in perspective, so I'm glad you brought up Patterson, and there are towns in New Jersey that are getting significantly more than $64 million. The original flash numbers announced for Long Hill Township were $412,000 in 21 and $412,000 in 22. So I wouldn't get too excited about that $64 million that is slotted for Patterson.
So the bottom line question is, if and when these monies come to fruition, what impact will they have on this resolution?
Mayor, can I jump in here real quick?
Absolutely.
So when the federal government awards money in this way, although this is fairly unprecedented, what they're doing with the American Recovery Plan, it comes along with what's called a grant agreement and a compliance supplement, and those usually follow the award. I'm hoping in this case it's sooner rather than later, but it's usually a month or two. At which time we'll know how and what the funds could be spent on. So at that point, that'll be the determination of how the funds are utilized. There is a way to amend this budget at a future date that would be tax neutral, called a Chapter 159 amendment. So that's one way that this form could be affected, but there's a separate resolution, and the council does have to vote on that. So I would say at this point in time, it's really too early to say how those monies will affect this budget. And that goes across the board. That's the kind of information that all the towns are getting. It's just at this point, it's too early. We don't have enough information from the federal government on how the funds are allowed to be spent. So at this point, you can't say how it will affect this budget.
So the answer to my question is there's nothing in this budget right now that impacts this recovery federal monies.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Megan, any other hands raised? I don't see any.
I don't see any, Mayor.
Okay, so we're not going to take any action on this. It is being carried to May 26th, 2 weeks from this evening.
I
Item number-
understand, Mayor, I understand the advice of the auditor and CFO was that we could actually close the public hearing tonight, and then you can just act on the budget resolution at the next meeting.
Okay, so
Correct.
for those that are here, because it was advertised as such, the public portion of the adoption of 21-123, the adoption of the 2021 budget is going to be this evening. So if anybody else has any questions or comments, please, now is your time, because once we close it, we will simply be voting on the adoption of the budget on May 26th. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's my understanding, yes.
Yes, that's correct.
So let's just give the public a second here. I don't see any hands. So I'm going to close the public comment section and carry the adoption of the 21 budget until May 26th. There will be no public comment on that evening. Okay. Item number 6 on your scorecard, consent agenda resolutions. I think we added, so it's 21-124 to 21-135. We will read 135. Megan, is that right?
There was just one correction to the title of 135. It should read appointing, it should be appointing temporary laborer, not temporary part-time laborer.
And Mr. Tyler Harris. Okay, so I turn this to the Township Committee. Does anybody want to pull any of these resolutions for further clarification, or any resolution that you believe you should recuse yourself from?
I'll abstain from 21-126, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And any others? Comments, questions? Hearing none. I'm looking for a motion to approve 21-124 to 21-135, 21-135 amended as Megan described. And Brendan, I apologize, you're abstaining from which one?
21-126.
126, okay.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey,
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray,
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia.
Yes. So let's go on to liaison reports. Whoever sits in Marsha Brady's chair gets called on first. So Scott, floor's yours.
Okay, recreation. So a lot going on as usual in Long Hill Recreation. Mr. Mayor, guess what month this is?
May?
It is May. But you know what month it really is? It's Bicycle Safety Month. So the Recreation Department's teamed up with the library and the Long Hill Police Department to offer several programs around bicycle safety. So there is a Goose Chase scavenger hunt, and that's an app that teams can download to a private game that Long Hill created with 16 missions revolving around bicycling. This scavenger hunt's going to go through May 31st. Go online to our website and sign up. Secondly, the Long Hill Police Department will be running a bicycle rodeo in the parking lot of Town Hall on Saturday, May 22nd, 9 a.m. to noon. Be there. And then lastly, all month long, the Long Hill Library is spotlighting books and movies around bicycling. More bicycling. So more information on the website. Second, that we're preparing for summer camps and recreation right now. Registration is now open on the website through June 1st. I've been talking about virtual babysitting classes. They continue to be offered. The next one is on Saturday, June 5th. There's still spots in the class. Memorial Day. Things are getting better with Memorial Day. We've made some updates on our parade and observance. Now we're going to be allowing for parade marchers with masking guidelines and social distancing guidelines. There's a letter on our website that explains more. Next, register on Community Pass for your Sterling Lake memberships. Sterling Lake opens in just a couple weeks here, May 29th. And I think we have a resolution on that tonight, if I'm not mistaken. The summer concert series, a lot going on there. I think the first concert is something like June 22nd at the Sterling Lake. Others to follow at Canterfield throughout the summer. And then lastly, just a note, on May 10th, public outdoor gathering limit was raised to 500 people. On May 19th, as long as our metrics against the virus continue to move in a positive direction, gathering limits will be removed as long as appropriate social distancing can be maintained. Watch the website for updates and be sure to register for e-news as appropriate. Back to you, Chief.
Thank you, Scott. So I was reading, did you announce the Memorial Day parade?
I did. I think we vote on that later, don't we?
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. So Brendan, you're next on the,
No reports, Mayor.
thank you, Brendan. Matt?
All right. DPW. I got 100 things going on here. DPW, the best news they gave is the veteran banners are up. So take a walk around Main Avenue and or Town Hall. You see the veterans banners. There's probably some new ones. Every time they put them up, there's some new ones. Mulch delivery is still available. I happen to be at the DPW on Saturday, and I hadn't been there in a couple of weeks, and the pile is getting smaller. So if you want your mulch, please email or call. They deliver on Fridays. If you go in person, you can take as much as you want. If you want a delivery, it's $100. They're also doing basin repair, lawn maintenance, and as they said, they're getting the lake ready. Oh, and for those of you using Cantor, the horseshoe pits and the bocce courts have been repaired and some maintenance has been done on them. So have at it and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I do think that the fee for the mulch delivery is nominally higher. I think it's $115.
It might be, but it's only a couple of bucks.
Right, it's just a couple of bucks.
Negligible at that point.
I just didn't want anybody to be upset when it was slightly higher. Victor, I can't see you. Where are you? There you are.
Oh, hold on. The police liaison report is as follows. Self-initiated activities and calls for service year to date, 7,616. Motor vehicle stops year to date, 526. Community policing and proactive residential radar posts, 692. Arrest incidents year to date, 10. And actual subjects, both adult and juvenile, arrested, total of 11. National Police Week began Sunday, May 9th, and ends on Saturday. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation which designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week. I'm not doing too well here. Let me try that again. Designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which that date falls as Police Week currently. Law enforcement officers from around the world participate in a number of planned events which honor those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. This year, several officers from the Long Hill Township Police Department are partaking in a fundraising bicycle ride / escort to raise money for the National Law Enforcement Fund. We wish our Long Hill police officers a safe journey and a safe return home to their families following their hours and tours of duty. Major incidents. The Long Hill Township Police Department received recognition by Morris County Acting Prosecutor Robert Carroll in a May 6th press release. A member of our Detective Bureau and also a member of the County Narcotics Task Force participated in an investigation / operation that yielded the seizure of 1/4 kilogram of cocaine, a loaded 9mm handgun, and over 9,000 in U.S. currency, hollow point bullets, 2 high-capacity magazines, and drug distribution paraphernalia. Community policing. This month, the month of May is designated as Bike Month. The Long Hill Township Library, the Long Hill Township Recreation Department, and the Long Hill Township Police Department have collaborated their efforts for an event on May 22nd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Cantor Park parking lot. The event will incorporate bike safety information, a bike rodeo, parking lot course, and some prize giveaways. Please join us in this effort. As an interesting side note, bike sales in New Jersey increased by 62% during the pandemic. And finally, we have some special requests. With the increase in bicycles and pedestrians engaging in outdoor activities, we urge that all motorists comply with all traffic safety laws and look out for their neighbors sharing the roadways. And that concludes the police liaison report.
Did you, Vic, I saw you give us one of these, right? That's the Newark, there's the report. What is that? All right, so, announcements. I just want to, once again, thank our police department, First Aid Squad, Fire, CERT, MRC, OEM, and all the volunteers in town. I think we're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel regarding COVID. And we should probably thank, all the workers at the food stores in town, the restaurants, doctors' offices and stuff. And I'm sure I'm leaving out somebody, but, and of course, township employees and DPW. Just thank you. I think we're fast approaching the new normal, but at least it'll have the word normal in there. I think, Nancy, are we going to make any announcements regarding, so I'll leave that to actually, we should probably, I apologize. Did I skip over you again?
No, I'm next.
No.
Are you doing a liaison report right now?
Who did I didn't skip over anybody, right? So it is your turn, no?
Yeah, I thought you were giving a liaison report right now. But if you're not, I'll go.
No, that was just a special shout out to all the volunteers and workers in town. And now, Nancy, floor's yours.
Okay. I wanted to make an announcement about recycling. At the last meeting, I talked about how the Morris County MUA was coming into town to follow the recycling trucks around this past Monday to try and see how they could improve their service. They did so, and part of the issue I found out is a lot of workers call in sick on Monday, so often you don't have the same workers going through the town. So it's a little inconsistent, but in any event, a bigger issue seems to be, and this is a big part of the problem, is that they have found a lot of unacceptable materials in people's recycling. And there was a list, I'm not going to read a list of streets, but they did give us streets with house numbers that had unacceptable things in their recycling. And when I looked through the list, most of the biggest problem was plastic bags. Not only do people put their recycling in plastic bags, which you're not allowed to do, they put plastic bags in the recycling. So there are no bags, like we can't say that enough. No plastic bags, they're not recyclable. You could bring them to town hall as soon as we open and put them in the containers. We also have containers at DPW, the plastic that we're collecting for trucks. That's where you put your plastic bags, but they do not go in recycling. There were coffee cups with straws in them, like from iced coffee, not recyclable. There was styrofoam, there were planters. There were quite a few things that were not recyclable. So when people are, going on Facebook to complain that their recycling was not picked up, it's not that it was missed, it was rejected. So they're going to start putting out tags on people's recycling to say you had unacceptable material in here. But for right now, if you're the only person on your street whose recycling is not picked up, more than likely it means you had something in there that was not allowed to be in there. So, we're going to do our best to continue to try and, put education materials out for what is recyclable, what's not. There is information on our website. We mailed to everybody forms that show what is recyclable, what's not. We mailed those at the beginning of the year. I will put it prominently on our website again. I'll put it on Facebook again. And like I said, just look through what you put out for recycling if you're missed, because chances are you had something in that wasn't supposed to be in there. But good news is that the MUA is, committed to making sure that, they're doing what they're supposed to. And hopefully as we go on, we can have our residents make sure they put out things that they're supposed to as well. I wanted to announce that the Watchung Hills. The Watchung Hills superintendent and business administrator are coming into the next meeting to talk about their budget, a summary of their budget. I wanted to mention that at a previous meeting, a resident brought up closed captioning, whether or not closed captioning was available for our meetings. And with the upgrade of our TV, of LHTV, I had looked into it, and it costs $2,000 for the initial software in order to do closed captioning. And then it would cost $3,000 for 300 hours of coverage. And when I averaged out the amount of time for this township committee, as well as planning board and board of adjustment, we have about 180 hours a year of meetings. And so for $3,000, we can get 300 hours of time, and then it carries over. They don't expire. So it's roughly 2 hours, 2 years worth of coverage for $3,000.
And Nancy, did you factor in the current mayor's length of his meetings in that calculation?
It was only 150 without him.
Megan, I'd like to go on the record that the deputy mayor has been abusive this evening. And he hurt my feelings.
Actually, I have a quick question based on something Nancy said. Mr. Mayor, have you ever invited our Board of Ed to come do a budget presentation? I know the high school comes every year.
So are you asking me or?
Well, unless somebody else is the mayor tonight, yes.
Well, Megan?
I'll be the mayor. The meeting will be over in 5 minutes.
That's my second complaint regarding my colleagues, and I'm not speaking to Matt or Brendan the rest of this meeting. So, actually, Nancy, Matt brings up a very good point. Would you mind reaching out to K-8 Superintendent Dr. Mucci and see if perhaps they would like to come present to the Township Committee as the high school is going to be doing?
They used to come every year.
I don't remember. Do you remember when that stopped, Jack? Oh,
No, I don't remember when it stopped, but I recall they used to come every year because we'd have the high school and the elementary, the K-8s.
I mean, I think it's important, Nancy, to point out to Dr. Mucci, they're always welcome to come. We would be happy to make time for them at a public meeting. Okay.
Okay, wait, I have one more thing.
Okay.
So as you, a couple of you have mentioned, the governor's opening up more things. So we wanted to talk about opening town hall and when we'd be able to get meetings back into the meeting room. And I checked with the Board of Health to see what kind of requirements would be put in place when we did that. And as of today, at least, because things change from day to day or week to week. As of today, if we did move our meetings back in to the courtroom, everybody would have to wear masks at all times and social distancing would have to be adhered to. So as I discussed at a previous meeting, I believe Megan and I, it's between 36 and 39 people, I believe we could fit into the seats. I don't know that we could social distance the board members, especially with the land use boards, like sitting up at the dais, but if you could get through that, I guess the issue becomes when you have bigger groups of people. And I know that at last night's planning board meeting, they had 44 people who attended the meeting, by watching on Zoom, and 18 participants, including the board members, the professionals and the staff and the applicants. So clearly that would not be able to fit into the courtroom. So I'm not sure how you want to handle that, but as far as opening the building, we could do that. I was proposing the second week of June, either the 7th, June 7th, to open the building. We would require masks and temperature taking, and only the one side door would be open, but we're happy to reopen the building. I just need some time just to get everything in order. And then as far as the meetings go, that's your call, whether you all want to sit through a meeting with a mask on for a couple hours, and how you wanted to handle when there's larger groups of people that don't fit in to the courtroom. We're not at a point yet where we've got the Zoom capability, still working on that. So I don't know if that'll be in place by June 9th or not. So I thought you'd want to discuss that.
So can I, Jack, ask a question? If we were to choose a meeting date, whether it's June 9th, June 23rd, or some other date, if we thought a topic on an agenda might bring out a larger in-person crowd, are we allowed to change the meeting to a remote meeting, but maintaining other meetings in person?
It's not clear at this point. I think we would be able to, as long as we gave adequate notice to the public. So it would almost be like a special meeting notice, I would think.
But I mean, the only problem with that guy is that it's difficult to tell, right?
No, I agree.
Right.
I was going in that direction. It seems that the law is a bit vague, and our ability to anticipate how many people, like, for example, this evening, at one point, I think we were up to 37 or so. And I want to thank Randy Barr, the CFO, and Ray Serenelli, the township auditor, who I see had signed off. So it's hard to anticipate. So Brendan, actually, I think I follow your line of thinking and agree with it. I don't know that we can do that just yet. But I should, Scott, why don't we turn it to you?
The question I would have is, could we do hybrid meetings where we had in-person and Zoom?
So I'm not there yet, not ready yet. We think we're gonna be able to do it, but we're not prepared to do that yet. We're
That's-
we're working
That's when
on
we
it.
have to test.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
once-
yeah, we're not even at a testing point yet, but we're getting there.
Okay.
because once we have that technology, it would be, I'd welcome the opportunity to get back together in the courtroom, but once that technology is in place.
Yeah, I would welcome that as well, as long as I don't have to sit next to Brendan.
As long as you keep your mask on.
So then,
Matt, Vic, I don't know. It sounds to me like the opening of town hall, but Vic, there you are, and Matt, what do you think? Let's separate it. The opening of town hall, when Nancy believes it is safe to do so, and then the comment about the township committee meetings.
Well, Vic, go ahead.
I'd like to see them come back to town hall as soon as possible, but that means as soon as it's safe. I don't think there's any need at this point, after all this time, to risk the safety of employees or members of the public or those of us on the township committee prematurely. So if the suggestion is sometime in June, I'm fine with it. If it's sometime after that, I'm fine with that also. If there's a way to do the hybrid effectively, I don't have anything against it.
Okay, thank you, Vic. Matt?
Yeah, no, I think it's fine to open town hall as soon as we can. It just, we don't need the loiterers to be there all day doing nothing. I mean, if people come in and they have legitimate business to go, that's fine. But if you're just hanging around because you have nothing to do, there's no reason for you to be there, so don't be there. I mean, it's not fair to the people that need a construction permit or go to there, pay their taxes or to pay a court fine, but it's also distracting the employees. So if the people that are going into town hall are there for legitimate business, I have no problem with it. And as to the meetings, my concern is in our meetings. I mean, I don't think we'll ever have a problem. At least I don't think there's anything coming up in the near future that's going to be very controversial. On the other hand, I think with the planning or zoning board, with some of the applications going on, that's usually a circus. So that's where you'd have to have right up front, just stick them on hybrid till we can have full capacity in there.
Mayor, can I follow up?
Of course.
Following up on what Committeeman Dorsey said, I just wanted to also say that we have limitations on the number of people in an office at a time. So we're only allowing one person in office. So that's a really good point, that if we've got people waiting to pay their taxes and you've got one person in there, people are waiting outside to go in. So it's not like it used to be where people could be, all hanging out in the office at one time. So that is something to consider, that I hope residents will consider, that there, at times might be a crowd and there's people waiting to go in because only one can go in at a time. So thank you for raising that issue.
Any other questions or comments for Nancy? So I guess the plan is some date in June. You haven't identified that date just yet.
Well, I was thinking the 7th. I was going to do everything on the 9th if you were going to come back for a meeting. I guess to be determined, but the goal is for that week of June.
Okay. And it's subject to change depending on if the numbers change and the state directive changes. But that's a good target. And I know it came up at the last meeting, by the way, the question regarding Randolph, and I did reach out, and in fact, I saw them the other day. Randolph has not opened up to the public just yet. Although much like Long Hill Township, they are considering coming up with a date where they will. All right. One thing, Nancy, you mentioned the closed captioning of a $2,000 startup cost and a $3,000 per 300 hours. could we, Scott, would you mind reaching out to the school board and discussing this? You know, the $2,000 is much more nominal, I think, than we had anticipated. So if, you know, that's something we could, of course, absorb, I think, at the municipal level. The hourly cost, I think, you know, the township committee could, well, really the taxpayer could cover that out of the municipal budget, and perhaps the school board, but it could discuss, because I know they've been concerned about closed captioning in the past, and this sounds like a relatively cheap way. I don't know, it's $3,000 for 300 hours. The hours carry over from year to year. Was there a less, because we obviously have more meetings because of the planning board and the zoning board, and you estimated 180 hours. I don't think the school board has anywhere near that need.
It's the next lowest one's 100 hours. So I don't think we'd be able to.
And
I
how
don't
much,
think-
no, not, oh, would we buy it in total? Like the 300 hours would be allocated and perhaps we can split the cost?
You could do that. If you bought 300 hours, it'd be $3,000. And if you, I guess we would be, you know, 2/3 of that, and the Board of Ed would be one.
All right,
Yeah.
Scott, I don't know if that's, you know, if you got enough clarity on those numbers, but we're talking about relatively nothing.
Yeah, I would say the first step, Nancy, is, yeah, I'd like to get the data that you have, the information, and also pass it by a group of people at the CAC, the Communications Advisory Committee. And it just kind of, you know, look at the whole thing. I have talked to some folks at the Board of Ed, and there is some interest in it. So yeah, no, I think this is great. And this is a far cry from when it was something like $25,000 a year, right? The prices on this stuff are coming down, which is really good.
Thank you, Scott. And Nancy, thank you for looking into this. To Scott's point, you know, maybe we had sticker shock at 20 to 25,000, but when we're talking 2,000 startup and $3,000 for 300 hours, which would take us, you know, maybe a year and a half to use, it starts to sound compelling.
And just to clarify, this would be closed captioning put over the top of the recordings, right, Nancy?
No, it would also be live.
It would be live. Okay, and does that work as a Zoom plugin?
No, this isn't through Zoom. This is through Telview.
Okay.
People,
Yep, I got it. Yep.
All right. Is that it, Nancy?
that is all. I do have one thing under new business. I could say it now if you want, just so I could be
You're
done.
like Columbo, right? Just one more thing. Okay, go ahead.
A few months ago, Dimitri Giannakis came before you to talk about an Eagle Scout project for signs at Sterling Lake. And one thing that he did not raise when he was here is there's a sign permit necessary, and there's a fee for that. It's $100. And so I wanted to know if you'd be interested in waiving the fee for him.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Can I have a motion to waive the fees associated with Mr. Giannakis's Eagle Scout project?
So moved.
Second.
See, Brendan, see what I did there? I cut to the chase. No verbiage.
It was impressive.
Can I have an all in favor vote?
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Nancy. So let's go to number 11 this time, announcements. One thing I just wanted to point out, I think we've all seen, social media is wonderful. You know, you get to learn things, some of it even accurate, most not. Please, for any member of the public, if you have questions for Town Hall, your go-to should not be social media. You have a wonderful administrator, a wonderful municipal clerk. You have maybe not so wonderful township committee members and mayor. But all of the contact information is available online. The planning and zoning administrators there, et cetera, et cetera. Please don't turn to social media for answers to your questions. I saw some recent threads where some of the responses were well-meaning, some perhaps not. But in many cases, the information provided was inaccurate. Your go-to should be the people you're looking at here. All of the email addresses are on the township website and pretty easy to find. So I would just ask the public to have fun with social media, but don't depend on it for answers to your technical questions. The people you should be contacted are on here. Megan, were you going to say something?
Yes, Mayor, before you make any more announcements, can we go back to the one discussion item we have for tonight, the Sterling Street Fair?
I have problem with numbers. My finance degree isn't so helpful. I went 8, 9, 10, 12. I'm like the who was that actress in Godfather? Tuesday, Wednesday. So I shouldn't say it that way, I guess. Sunday. All right. So item number 9, which I skipped, is the Sterling Street Fair. I think we had discussed at the past meeting possibly having it on Memorial Day. I don't know how we should proceed here, but Brendan, why don't I start with you?
I thought, in the past, I thought we had discussed having it in September, which there was general agreement there. So I'd like to keep that date.
That's fair. Scott?
I'm fine either way. I'm okay with September though.
Matt?
I'm good with September, assuming they can have it then, but there's no reason to have it before.
Vic?
September.
Thank you, Vic. And like Scott, I'm fine either way, although I do think, and I think Brendan and Matt and Vic made a compelling case, the date available to the township is Father's Day. I don't think that's the best day. I think there's a reason why it's available, because no one else took it. So I would say a future date, Labor Day being one, or sooner if the numbers provided and the guidance provided by the state indicated it could be sooner. But I like the idea of Labor Day. All right, Megan, what number should I go to?
We can go back to announcements.
All right. Okay. The one announcement I do have is somewhat sad for those who remember Mr. Thaddeus A. Sims and Dorothy Harmon Sims. They owned Valley Memorial Funeral Home. They bought it in 1971, and they owned it and served this community for 30 years. So I'm sure a lot of people here knew them. Mr. Sims passed away February 3rd. Mrs. Sims, unfortunately, soon thereafter, on April 19th. Mr. Sims was 87. Mrs. Sims was 83. Now, his family provided us with obituaries for both. And rather than pick and choose, I think what I'm going to do is to read what was provided by his family and her family. Thaddeus Sims, 87, passed away February 3rd, born and raised in Carteret. Tad grew up near his family-owned Polish grocery store, and his grandmother was the local midwife who helped bring Tad into our world. Tad married Dorothy Harmon in 1960. They lived in Long Hill Township for nearly 40 years. And after that, they retired to Whiting. Tad proudly served his country during the Korean War. After his honorable discharge, he attended McAllister School of Mortuary Science, graduating in 57. As I mentioned, he and his wife, Dorothy, bought Valley Memorial Home in 71, and they were dedicated to our community for 30 years. An avid lover of music, Tad attended Juilliard and shared his musical talents throughout his life in bands as well as at several churches here in town, most notably the First Presbyterian Church of Sterling, and then later on in life at the Community Reformed Church in Whiting. He loved golf. He was very active in the Senior Golf League at the Lakehurst Naval Base. He was active in his community throughout his life with the Chamber of Commerce right here in Long Hill, and at the local and state funeral directors, as well as food pantries, Salvation Army, and the American Legion. His wife Dorothy, as I mentioned, passed away April 19th. Dot, as his family and friends called Dorothy, was born and raised in the Plainfield area, moving to Long Hill Township after marrying Thaddeus in 1960. She and Thaddeus opened Valley Memorial in 71, as I said. She was an expert flower arranger. She was known for all of her seasonal plantings, believing in the serenity that flowers bring and blooming flowers provide hope. Dot drove the school bus, volunteered on the Long Hill Township Rescue Squad, formerly the top squad before the two merged. She served on the Board of Adjustment in Long Hill and on the Board of Trustees in Crestwood. She loved bocce, cards, women's softball. She liked going on cruises, Vegas-style shows, and trips to Atlantic City. Dot forged many friendships here in Long Hill Township, and she will be deeply missed. Both Thaddeus and Dorothy are survived by their daughter, Kelly Petrozelli, and her husband, Daniel, and daughter, Leah. She is survived by her two sisters, Fran Santangelo and Patricia Lambertson. And I do apologize if I left out, I did not. So services, this is something the family asked me to announce, will be held for both Thaddeus and Dorothy, 11 a.m. Thursday, June 24th at the First Presbyterian Church of Sterling. Please join us, and this is an invitation from their family. Please join us to celebrate his life, share a funny memory, or one of his many jokes, and that's it. So big shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Sims. Thank you for serving Long Hill for 30 plus years and for living in town and being our neighbor for 40 years. Okay. Item number 12. The meeting is open to the public. Please, if you could, limit remarks or comments to 3 minutes. I'll start off with written comments. Megan, did we receive any written comments?
We did, Mayor. It was the second part of Mr. Lorber's email, so I'm just going to read it verbatim.
Thank you.
Thanks apparently to your kind intervention, I was able to obtain a draft copy of the Cross Hill Road proposed improvements / work specifications for fiscal year 2021. On page 9 of 13 pages, I see an 8-inch drainage PVC heading west, starting from the proposed manhole in front of Tom Giannini's former driveway. This PVC line is certainly good to see. However, there is no proposed stormwater inlet near there, nor anywhere on the essentially leveled shelf of Cross Hill Road, i.e. the part that crosses the T with Hilltop Road, running from David Farley's driveway to Giannini's existing driveway. Quite obviously, at the very least, a bare minimum of one strategically located stormwater inlet there would be absolutely necessary for my collection overspill interest and concern to be addressed for real, i.e. for the 8-inch drainage line to Basking Ridge Road to have any functional value whatsoever. Indeed, there are currently no stormwater inlets on this 8-inch drainage pipe shown anywhere on the blueprints, from the 2021 blueprints eastern terminus all the way down to Basking Ridge Road. It is crucially essential that they be constructed on the road shelf. I certainly hope that these shortcomings on the blueprints simply / only represent oversights and haste on some draftman's part or something trivial like that. In contrast, I do see that they do plan to construct a large number of type D stormwater inlets on the other 15-inch diameter drainage line from its highest point all the way down to Basking Ridge Road. To go on to another issue, I should also note that 8-inch PVC seems really small to me, what with the major deluge that I've seen interspersed back over the 40 years that I've lived here. But surprise, surprise, I'm not a wise guy, and I certainly realize that I am mucho miles from being a civil engineer. So if that can be an 8-inch, I guess it can only be an 8-inch. Otherwise, in as much as a draft is just a draft, it looks like I'm still happy enough. I'm still of a happy camper to say to the 5 councilmen, thank you to one and all. Nevertheless, any light that anyone can throw on the peeves that I have taken the liberty of identifying above would certainly be appreciated.
Thank you, Megan. And this is certainly above my pay grade and probably the rest of the township committee. Nancy, could you forward this to the township engineer, Paul Ferrara?
Yes, actually, he was copied on that, so I'll talk to him about it on Monday when he's in next.
And thank you. I mean, and Mr. Laura, thank you so much for asking your question in this format or addressing it to the township in whether it's to us and then we forward it to the engineer. This is exactly how questions should be addressed, and Neil has always been a good friend to the community. So thank you very much. Okay. Any other written comments?
There is not, Mayor.
Thank you, Megan. So we're going to open up the meeting to the public on any topic. Megan, I'll turn it over to you to choose in the order that they raise their hand.
It looks like we have a Carol Bianchi from JCP&L. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please.
Yes, Carol Bianchi, JCP&L, 52
Carol,
Chatham.
let me just welcome you. Carol, thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming this evening and for being patient to speak at the public portion. And for those who don't know, Ms. Bianchi is the former mayor of our neighboring town, Burnouts Township. So it's always a pleasure to, if not see you, to hear you. You came to this meeting, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Very well.
Okay, great. So there's a few things I wanted to share with you, Mayor and everyone. The first is I would really like to address the outage that occurred on Mother's Day, May 9th. If you could just give me a moment to talk about that. We had what they call a trip and a reclose early in the morning at about 7:38. Our crews arrived at the scene to find out what had occurred, and there was significant damage caused by animal contact to a recloser. It mostly affected the Valley Mall and the surrounding area. It affected about 80 people. One of the significant pieces of information that was missing at the time was that in order to safely make repairs, the crew opened the breaker for the entire substation, which affected a large number of people. While the outage was only 12 minutes, it's still a piece of information that we certainly would and should have provided to you, Mayor, for situational awareness. We want our customers to, come to JCP&L, with their outages, call the 888 number. But when there's a large outage, even if it's for a short duration, we want you to have that awareness. So that was a mistake on our part. That information did not go into the system. It was not easy to find. And it did account for all of the outages that you and I were talking about, Mayor, covering all of those folks who are reaching out to you. So please accept our apologies, and we have addressed that internally. The second thing I'd like to share, there's some good news. JCP&L received an Environmental Leadership Award from the CIANJ, Commerce and Industry Association, and Commerce Magazine, and that was for our efforts in recycling. We've also, as you know, planted trees throughout our territory, and working with the Great Swamp, we planted trees at Cantor Park in Long Hill, and I want to thank Al Gallo, Mayors Pacercha and Dorsey for attending, and anyone else who was able to be there that day. And that was the efforts of our green team and women in leadership at JCP&L. And then the third thing I wanted to address was our Reliability Plus. When I started here in 2019, I think I came to you and I talked about all the great things we were going to do over the course of 18 months. And indeed, we have completed those. It included the installation of trip savers, which I had talked to you about before, which are a type of automatic recloser. We installed 13 of those in Long Hill. We trimmed over 28 miles of vegetation management in addition to our 4-year cycle of tree trimming. We feel that that has significantly improved our reliability. We've had a number of storms since Isaias, and indeed the results have been much better. Fewer outages and shorter duration. We've also installed a loop scheme between the Gillette and Mountain circuits for those longer duration outages so that we can backfeed if there's an outage on one circuit. And finally, we installed SCADA controls for remote communications. And that's my update, Mayor and committee.
Carol, thank you very much. You were very responsive over the weekend when I called you a bit concerned with an inordinate amount of residents that were reaching out, and I do appreciate it. Apology accepted. As you
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, there was a piece of missing information. I kept saying to you, no, there's only 80 people. And after investigation, I found that the breaker was open, but it wasn't recorded as it normally is. Normally, we would receive a notification advising us. And so we are addressing that internally, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And even though the outage was only 12 minutes, to your point, no one knows how long the outage is going to be when it goes out. So any kind of information that can come from JCP&L to the township would be greatly appreciated.
Oh, and Mr. Mayor, while we have Ms. Bianchi on, I'd like to thank her up from Mr. Briggs, actually, in the Baseball and Softball Association, because they needed some telephone poles to help for parking guides and things like that. So for barriers, and she actually was creative and found a couple telephone poles, and she coordinated with Gal at the DPW. And I'm not sure if Al got them yet, but he made arrangements to get them from somewhere in Harding Township. So thank you, Carol, for putting us on top of the list on that one.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you, Carol.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great
evening.
Bye-bye, everyone.
So Megan, looking for any other comments or questions from the public?
We have a CA. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please.
Charles Renowitz, Millington. I attended a meeting a couple meetings ago about capital budgeting and all the department heads. And then I sent an email to Megan. I'd like to see more detail. I've looked at the online budget. I've read tonight's paragraph on the capital expenditures. But if you could direct me to see where we're spending the 2.8 million in terms of project, I don't see that. That's question number one. Question number two, commenting on Randolph. I was born and raised in Randolph and had conversations with people in Randolph. Their town hall, as I sent an email to you, has been open since July 6, 2020. Their town hall, Mr. Mayor. So we're thinking about opening in June. They have been open for a year. And we're gonna think about opening.
So Chuck,
let me finish.
Okay.
Second thing is,
You've
a
got
couple
two
meetings
questions
ago,
in there.
I asked about the ability to Zoom and have people in presence, and the town administrator said there's no cost, we can continue to do it, and we can proceed. Now we're gonna wait another month, 2 months to see if we can do it. I mean, this is not acceptable to the taxpayers of this town. When towns have been open for a year, we're thinking about opening. We had Warren opening. I called Warren. They didn't tell me they had problems. The paper called me and said they didn't have problems with the number of people in attendance. What is going on here? We need some better explanations on all these topics. Go ahead, Mayor.
So thank you, Chuck. You had Randolph, you had the capital budget. And what was the third question?
Opening town hall and
Okay.
opening joint meetings with Zoom and in public.
All right. So let's address the first one. Randolph. You may have grown up in Randolph, but I can tell you, I spoke with several members of their council. when you say town hall has been open in Randolph since July, I believe, of last year.
July 6th.
July 6th. What you are referring to is exactly what Long Hill Township did. And Nancy, when did we open up town hall by appointment?
July 6th.
So essentially the same day as Randolph. I can assure you.
Wait a minute, I can come to town hall? I
What you
didn't
can
know that.
do, what you can do is if you needed to speak with, if you needed to meet with somebody or pick up forms, somebody will meet you in the atrium between the library and town hall, which, as I understand it, is what Randolph is doing as well.
It's
That's
exactly
not
what
my
Randolph-
understanding. That's not my understanding what Randolph's doing.
Mayor Paserchi, if I could read an email from the municipal clerk over at Randolph Township.
Fire away.
Well, far away, because I talked to him too.
Okay, so Randolph is open to the public. However, people can only enter through the front doors and can't go past the atrium. We have a receptionist in the atrium who calls the various departments as needed for them to come out and interact with the visitor.
Where is our atrium? And can I come in here? I'll come there
All
tonight.
right, Chuck, the question has been asked and answered by me.
No,
by
here's the
Nancy,
question.
and by
Here's
Megan.
the question. Can I come to town hall and come into the building?
You can come into the atrium between the library and town hall
And
and
who will
somebody
greet
will meet you there. Whoever you need to meet with.
How do I
Usually
do that? I
You
knock
call
on the
up,
door?
you call or you email, and people have knocked on the door and said, hey, I need to pick up whatever. And whoever answers the door, but the more efficient way to do it, because we don't have somebody there manning the door. So the more efficient way to do it is to email or call the employee that you need something from and arrange a time and they'll meet you out
So
there.
we've been open since July and nobody knows it?
People who have called who have needs know it.
How do I
There-
know that? If I didn't call or have a meeting, how do I know you're open?
Well, if you
Mr.
haven't called or had a meeting, then you didn't have the need, so you didn't need to know.
Mr.
Oh,
Arentowitz.
come on, don't play games.
I'm
I'm
not playing
sorry,
games.
whoa, 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 whoa.
We've
Slow
had
down.
numerous taxpayers who wanted to pay their taxes in cash. Tax collectors met them there. We've had numerous people who've come for marriage licenses. The clerk has met them outside. We've had numerous people who need to talk to the the construction department about construction. She's met them outside or in the atrium. So
Miss-
when people have needs, they
I'll
call.
knock on the door
and ask
tomorrow.
to
We'll
have
see it. What time?
Mr.
8:30?
Arentowitz, when you were dropping off a petition, I told you that I would go outside and accept the petition from you personally. That we are open
I
via
mailed it.
appointments. I was willing to come outside and you could have handed me
Right.
the
I
petition
mailed
before
it.
the election.
All right, so,
All right, go to the other topics, Mayor.
yeah, okay, so I think the question's been asked and answered. So essentially, Long Hill Township has done exactly what Randolph has done since exactly the same
And
day.
nobody knows it.
2020.
And also, just a point of clarification, I think Mr. Arentowitz was actually fully aware of the situation by the sounds of it, town hall. So I'm a bit confused by his
Okay,
line
capital
of
budget, next
question.
topic.
All right, so let's move on to the next one, capital budget. So Nancy, what's the date for the capital budget? And of course,
So
we
the
discussed.
capital budget was introduced tonight. So all
Right.
of the information, the amounts and the dollar amounts and the departments they'll be used for, and the general descriptions of what it would be used for is in the capital ordinance that was introduced tonight.
Yeah, that's,
No, I read the ordinance as a paragraph.
Okay, what would you like to know?
I'd like to know by project what we're spending on each one by department. I couldn't find that. By
I don't
project.
think that's like written anywhere, but we did discuss it
Not
during
on
the,
It's on the, I looked on the budget online, it's not there.
no,
But
it's not.
contracts.
It's not
contracts will
written.
be
It's-
awarded in specific
One at a
amounts.
time, Pigeon, one at a time.
Yeah, contracts will be awarded in specific amounts. All this did was appropriate the money.
Right, and so the actual projects were discussed during the budget meeting that I believe you were at.
Yeah, but I can't correlate that to tonight's 2.8 million.
2.38.
How do I do that?
Well, Jack, I guess the answer to that is we won't know until we award the contracts, right?
And at best, they're estimates. We'll
Right.
take bids or we'll get co-op
Fine.
prices or
Where do I
whatever.
find the
And-
estimates?
and contracts will be awarded by resolution
So
in specific amounts.
you don't have the estimates anywhere? I mean, those were internal
I couldn't find 'em.
documents. Right, because they don't exist for,
How did you come up with the number 2.8 if you have no estimates?
we have estimates internally. They're internal documents.
You can't share the roads?
I don't believe they're subject to Oprah. I mean, if
Okay.
you have,
All right,
ask, if
well,
you have a,
just approve the
spec-
money and we'll see it later.
if you have a
All right,
specific,
Mayor, let's go to the next topic.
if you want the answer, if
Zoom,
you,
what we
if you
gotta do.
want the answer, stop talking. If
No,
you
I
have
don't
a,
want the answer because it's not there.
All right, all
Nancy, I'm
right. And
sorry.
Chuck, just one correction. It's not 2.8, it's 2.38. All right, so
All right, 2.38.
let's just be
No
exact.
detail until the contracts are awarded. What a way to run. Okay, the next thing about Zoom and opening the public meetings, and there's no additional capital, but it's gonna take months to do it. Go
Mayor,
ahead.
if I may answer that, since Mr.
You may.
Rentowitz mentioned what I said, last meeting, I said I was working on it. Still working on it. Still don't think it's gonna cost anything. And if it does cost it, we have money in the budget.
But why is it taking so long?
Because it's not my field and I have other things to do.
All right,
That's not acceptable.
okay.
Sorry.
Sorry
But-
doesn't open up the town hall.
Asked and answered. Chuck, any other questions?
Well, you didn't answer what's taking so long.
I
Well-
just did. I'm working on it. I'm not a mechanical person. I'm relying on volunteers who are helping me so that I keep the cost down. So I have to work at their schedules and I have other things going on that they're also helping me with.
There's
So-
configuration work that has to be done, Chuck. It's
Could
a
you
lot of
explain
technical.
what that means? Because it's no dollars.
It's people connecting systems, loading software, configuring things, getting the video set up, testing it, putting together processes. It's a lot of work.
A lot of work. So when do we expect? September?
I hope not.
Mr. Arentowitz, we want to make sure that we are having open public meetings. That means that the meetings are not going to be subject to appeals. If you discuss
Don't
the,
throw the legal stuff.
excuse me,
Warren's not
sir.
having that
Right,
problem.
No, look, Chuck, Megan
Chuck's
is
not
trying to
having that
respect,
problem,
Chuck,
I'm sorry.
please mute Chuck for a second here. Megan is trying to respectfully and accurately answer your question. If you're not going to let her speak, we're going to cut you off. So
I was
Megan,
Thank
go ahead.
you. I was referring to the meeting that was over in Warren. They had a meeting for the planning board where they had to turn people away to go home and finish the meeting through Zoom. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Pigeon, that if anybody was to appeal that decision made at the planning board meeting, it would be lost, obviously.
I believe you're right, and that if it were appealed, it would be remanded for a new hearing in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Correct. So, Mr. Arentowitz, we are just trying to work through all of the things that this pandemic has brought to light and just make sure that we're not going to be wasting taxpayer money on appeals on different things that might arise. We're trying to make this as close to perfect as we possibly can.
And Megan, if you could discuss that meeting, you spoke to the clerk over there, I believe, about how they turned people away from the planning board meeting. Right?
Correct. Yes,
I don't
I
know, did you
spoke-
just say that? Yeah, can you talk about that?
Yes, I spoke with my contacts over in Warren Township, and they had people coming to the door, and it was a husband and wife, and they refused to let one person in, and they had to turn away other people, and the people that they turned away had to take the meeting through Zoom. I don't necessarily know how many people ended up showing up to that meeting, but I know that they were turning away people, so it's grounds for an appeal. We're trying to prevent that from happening here.
And in the meantime, we're in full compliance with the law.
We are, and I believe that that through Zoom, we're more accessible than we are to people who, when we have our meetings in person. I mean, I know for a fact that because I control these meetings or whatever you call it, we have had way more people attend the electronic meetings than we ever had in person, with a few exceptions, obviously. But getting back to Warren, I haven't watched in the last month or in the last month, I think, but they had a lot of problems with having a Zoom meeting while they're having a live meeting. They had several issues. And like Megan said, we're trying to do this right. I'm relying on volunteers to try and keep the cost down because it's very expensive to do it when you go out professionally. I'm trying to keep the cost down. I'm relying on volunteers from the communications committee. Scott is right. There's a lot of integration. We have a brand new TV system. We're trying to get that up and running. We're trying to then integrate Zoom into it so that we could have both things at one time while socially distancing people in the courtroom. So there's a lot going on. And then we have our regular jobs to do. So I'm sorry if I was disrespectful, but there is a lot going on, and please don't twist my words. I said I'm working on it. I don't have a time frame when it's going to be done, but we're trying.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Jack. Megan, please turn Mr. Rentowitz back on, but Chuck, we're well beyond the 3 minutes, so please tidy up and so we can move on.
Mr. Rentowitz, you're allowed to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Carol Bianchi went over 3 minutes, just so you know, Mayor.
All right, so thank you,
I
Chuck. Is that it?
appreciate you allowing me to speak. What a great country this is.
Yep. God bless America. I agree. All right,
Now,
so
I still
Ama-
think we
Chuck,
need to
thank
be
you. Thank you. So do we have any other eager residents who would like to speak, comment? I don't
I
see
don't see any,
anyone.
Mayor.
All right, well, then I want to wish what is today's date? Today's date is what? 12th, right? All right, so I won't say happy or, anything else. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a great evening, everyone.
There you
There you go, Vic. There it is.